Welcome, welcome, everybody. Hope you're all doing well today. Let's see here as people are coming in. There we go. Good to see everybody. Thank you so much for making time today. While people are coming in, go ahead and put in the chat. Hi, Melissa. Put in the chat where you're watching from today. We'll give everybody just a minute. Okay, Santa Barbara, Brooklyn, Garland, Texas, Savannah, Nevada, Fort Myers, Seattle. I'm going to Nevada next week, 2 weeks to speak at the Epic Conference. If anybody's going there, come to my session. I'd love to meet you and say hi. Got some Indiana, Canada, Wisconsin, New Jersey, San Luis Obispo. Oh, what a beautiful place. It's so good to see all of you coming from all over. And thank you so much for making time out of your day. We very much recognize that you got a lot going on, that it is a commitment to give up your time. And we don't take that for granted. So our goal today is to give you something valuable on a topic that we think is really, really important. And we're gonna dive into that in just a second. But first, okay, a little icebreaker. And this is not the day that I'm having. I'll just be real because it is raining. I don't know if where you are, it is pouring rain. I'm in Indianapolis, Indiana, a little town called Zionsville. It's pretty much flooded right now. But when that perfect first day of spring hits, when the weather just hits right, what is your go-to music? Like, do you have an artist or a type of music that you listen to when, on that first perfect day of spring? Let's fill up the chat, folks. And of course, no, that's Alyssa. Just so you know, that's my favorite artist right now. So I am big there. Elena with "Summertime" by Will Smith. That was what we needed here in this chat. Thank you. 80s music, Carrie. Thank you. I'll just be. I'm not like it's not cool. So, but I'm just gonna say it like. When I was like 19, I was really into punk music, and it only manifests itself again in my life on the first day of spring every year. And it just like it takes over my body for one day. I get it out of my system, and then I kind of get back into my jazz music or whatever I listen to now. So everyone, it's good to be with you. For those of you who don't know, I'm Adam Weber. I'm the chief evangelist here at 15Five. Used to be a chief people officer. Yeah, Sophia just put it in there. I'd love to connect with you all on LinkedIn. I post almost every single day about insights. Everything I do is around elevating the function of HR to become a more strategic function. We're committed to lifting up the HR profession to allow you to do the work of your dreams. And it's no surprise that this topic today is very much in alignment with that. If you're not in our community, we have a link that can take you in there directly. It's perfect timing because just today I have a keynote I do called The 5 Secrets of the Top 5% of HR Leaders. And it talks about, after 1,000 conversations, 5 traits that I've seen from HR leaders that are kind of doing strategic work. They're not blocked, they're proactive, not reactive. And I kind of had some space to do a long form ebook, and it's fully ungated inside the community. So hop over there. It's fully ungated. We'd love to have you join our community and provide some support for you on your journey too. So really excited about our panel today. We're talking about leveraging the manager to influence retention. And I just wanted to share a little bit before I introduce the panelists at why this conversation is so important. Number one, I'm just throw a couple stats at you really quickly. 70% of the variance of engagement, of an employee's engagement, is based on the manager. 63% of employees are not impressed by their manager's ability to lead. And 33%, this one's going to hit hard. So just brace yourself. If you're taking a drink of tea right now, make sure you get the full drink down before I say this. 33% of HR's time is spent solving problems caused by people managers. Really getting at the heart of impacting and influencing managers inside the organization is one of the fundamental tenets of how you transition an HR department from an administrative function to a strategic function. From a reactive posture, or just simply always responding to issues that are created, to we are ahead of the issues. We're putting systems in place to get ahead of it. It's no surprise then I shared about my 5 secrets that the 4th secret of what makes the very best strategic HR leaders is that they activate their strategies and their bold ideas through the manager. They make their lives easier. They provide proactive support. They give them the resources they need, the resources and training they need for the learned skill of management. And Shamim, I have them written down. So I'm just going to pop those stats. I'm not going to say it's going to feel good to see them again, but I'll still pop them in there for you. They're right there. So all that to say, that's what we're going to talk about today. And we've got a great panel. And what's really cool about the panel today is that we've got folks from different vantage points as well. So first, I'm going to introduce Chanel Johnson. She's a strategic advisor at 15Five, one of my go-to resources when it comes to all things strategic HR. She was an HR practitioner for over 15 years, leading the function before now she advises other people as well. So Chanel, welcome. We've got Katie Ray. She's the senior manager of people and culture at Bucket List Rewards. And then we've got Ashley Widener, who's the director of marketing at GoCo. And one of the things I thought was cool, I've been wanting to do this for a while, is to have someone who is a manager, not an HR. Like Ashley is a manager living this exact thing out from her vantage point and talking about her relationship with HR and how they partner together as well. So to the three of you, let me start with just a heavy hitter. I'm going to go in big with this question. What is one thing in your life that you take way too seriously and you cannot say HR or work as your answer? That is the question.
For me right now, it's the New York Times mini games, especially Connections.
I love Connections. Oh,
I wake up to a text every day from, well, I guess it kind of relates to work because it's with my team, but I'll wake up to a text every day of results, and then it's a rush to get your answers in.
Awesome.
For me, it's game night. It's rediscovering the fun and nostalgia from childhood, but also being super competitive and determining what teams are going to look like, what games I'm going to participate in, and mapping out my plan to win, because the goal is to always win at game night. Might take a little bit of the fun out of it, but at the end of the day, we have all enjoyed ourselves, and more often than not, I'm the winner.
It's fun for everyone, but I win.
I also take gaming very seriously, but my answer for today will be coffee. That is, I'm not awake until I've had my first cup of coffee, and those who know me, I like my coffee with a shot of espresso. That's my order at Starbucks. So
that's see if 70% of a company's variance of their engagement, employees' engagement, is based on their manager, like 95% might be based on if the HR person had coffee or not. Like, I mean, that could change some stuff really quickly. Mm-hmm. If you know me, you'll know this is a little cliche, but my goodness, I take pickleball way too seriously. Alarm was set at 5 a.m. I've already played 2 hours today. I'm not so quietly training over the next 5 years to join the senior tour in 5 years. We'll see. Also, what's the oldest thing you could ever say in public? It's that you're trying to make a senior professional pickleball league. That's my life. That's me. I'm at least vulnerable. And we hope to bring that vulnerability as well to this webinar today. So let's do this. Let's dive in to you three. What do you think right now when it comes like real time in the culture right now? What are some of the biggest challenges HR leaders are facing? And Ashley, for you, it could be from your perspective as well, but when it comes to retaining talent right now.
I would say that it's still the support, buy-in, and advocacy of leadership. HR leaders oftentimes will have the influence, but not necessarily the control or autonomy to do the things that need to be done and implement the initiatives that need to be implemented in order to support maintaining, high-performing employees and lowering turnover.
I can go next. I would say something that I've realized through my time in people and culture is that when it comes to retaining, employees and your top talent, one size does not fit all. So what individuals and employees value and what keeps them around long term really varies from person to person. So really having a well-rounded strategy, in place to recognize and accommodate those diverse needs and preferences of top talent, it should be something to work on.
Yeah. From the manager side of things, I think it can be really difficult to make enough time and focus for my retention strategy, because I also have my own objectives and goals that I have to complete and I have to motivate my team to complete. So learning how to balance that is really difficult, and it needs to be more proactive, but unfortunately sometimes you can get to it when it's a little too late. So you have to be thinking about it all the time.
Yeah, I'm over here also just like processing this situation I've heard so many times from an HR leader, where it's like, maybe when it comes to retention, they've like looked at engagement data, they've come up with a really good plan, they gain buy-in for the plan, and then just real talk here, there's like an a-hole on the exec team, or something that like, or something happens internally that like dramatically undermines all the work that went into the initiative they put in place. Which is, certainly not the most. I just think that's just what it happens, I think, to people though too. And so as you think about this manager, let's just dive straight into the manager now. And like, how do you think HR can leverage managers in building a solid retention strategy?
I think it goes back, Adam, to what you just referenced, right? Where there's the initiatives to promote retention, and then something happens and it just interrupts the intended impact, right? So managers, as you've already identified at the very beginning, they hold the greatest percentage of influence on employee retention. And they are going to be in place regardless of whether the initiative can be implemented, completed, or interrupted, right? And since they're so intimately involved and so influential on the employee experience, meeting them where they are and making sure that they are not only empowered, but also equipped to build relationships based on trust, to provide not just direction around what employees need to be doing, but also coaching and development that connects them deeper to the work that they are performing for the organization that they're with, and being able to demonstrate their confidence and their ability through allowing autonomy, through supporting their career development by helping them to identify their own strengths and influencing their ambitions in terms of professional growth, right? So absent from your typical initiatives, your managers are the most essential part of an employee retention strategy, because they hold the relationship, they have the frequent touch points, and they are the greatest influence on that employee experience.
That's awesome, Shauna. Katie, how about you?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of double down on being proactive. So managers are the eyes and the ears. They're the ones with the relationship. So in people and culture, we don't have I'm not directly interacting with a lot of the team on a regular basis. So it really falls on the manager to build those strong relationships, foster that trust, open communication, and recognize their team members. And it's about being proactive. So actively soliciting that feedback from employees. Let's not wait for those feedback surveys or until somebody resigns to find out that they're not happy. And don't assume that no news is good news. So this is something we build right into our weekly check-ins with our leaders, is we have these prompts for them to get comfortable asking and bringing up in their conversations. What can we do to make this your dream job is one of those questions. And just getting in the habit of asking those questions. Might not feel comfortable in the beginning, but practice makes perfect. And you keep asking those and start the conversation. And we find that really helpful in getting feedback.
That's awesome.
As a manager, I really appreciate when HR provides those things, especially creating some structure around it. I currently manage 3 people, but I've managed up to 8 people, and they all have very different roles and paths because I manage a team of specialists. So being able to have a guideline for career pathing and some of those generic questions that can apply to the whole team and are very valuable for the team are important. And then I also know what to be surfacing to my HR partners when we do have those check-ins to make the time more valuable too.
Yeah. Do you think I'm just thinking out loud here a little bit. Like there was the great resignation that happened, right? And people were dramatically stressed about their engagement strategy, their culture, all that, right? Inflation hits, the job market tightens, employees kind of stopped quitting. Like if you look at the macro level, they kind of held on for a little while. There's a part of me that wonders if right now, kind of that being proactive to what you're saying is even more important, because there could be some people that are sitting back going, it's been good for a little while, nothing's going to go wrong, and like that's just not how the market works, and how the world of work works. Any thoughts on that?
I think about that a lot because I want to keep my top performers, and my top performers are probably could theoretically be the first to look for something if we are just coasting along during this period. So we haven't lightened up on our approach with the shift in the environment like you've been talking about.
Go ahead, Chanel.
Well, I was just going to say, I think in many ways, we're still very much so in the world of the great resignation. It's just not as blatant as it was when it initially happened, right? Those who are not getting their needs met in their current roles, they're still looking, right? Mm-hmm. They're just doing it a little bit more discreetly. They are not as quick to say, I'm going to leave and figure it out on this other side because it's my world right now. And so the importance of focusing on retention, maintaining these relationships, creating environments that employees want to be loyal to and that they don't want to leave, it's still very much so important and should be a priority. Because I think we're in this world of unexpected resignations that will thwart the entire operation of a business if you do not keep an intentional pulse on it. So we can't turn a blind eye to that.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from the audience here too. If you would, just to get a real time, like how often do you get, over 400 people to all answer at one time? So the state of retention right now at your org, it's just inside of this group. We're not posting the chat anywhere. So 1 to 5. 5 is like retention is a top, like it is like a code red on fire issue. 1 is kind of like not an issue at all right now. Okay, this is all right. It's top. Someone's got it pretty solid, but it's pretty high up there. I'm seeing a lot of 4s and 5s, some 3s. Okay, it's a pretty mixed bag. It's kind of fun to do a real time poll. We are Ashley, just to talk a little bit about this high performer concept that you just brought up, and this is something I've been interested in, especially, and and maybe I'd be curious to hear in the chat. This is in the people in my network. I'll just say this instead of trying to make a global statement. Budgets have felt pretty tight, right? In recent times. So then and then companies that aren't in like rapid growth mode, you can really put yourself in an interesting spot with a high performer. We maybe can't give them the raise that we ideally would want to give them. We maybe don't have a title growth path that's like super obvious. And so inside of that context, and maybe that's not the world of, I guess in the chat, I'd be curious if that does feel like your world. And if it doesn't, I'd love to hear some context too. But just with that, curious for you all, what are ways that you're like kind of trying to recognize those high performers, or really like be like kind of build some loyalty inside of them as well?
Yeah, I saw that question in the chat when I made that comment, and that is what's on our mind because, as I mentioned, I have a team of specialists. There's not always an easy path for advancement in titles, or like you said, budgets can be tight. We plan them at the beginning of the year. There's not always room in there to just give them a bump in salary as a reward. So we have to be a bit more creative, and we run an IDP in partnership with our HR team. So we're trying to identify maybe areas that they want to specialize in and how we can promote their growth and development in that way and get them where they want to be, whether at our company or for their career in the long term. We also will create some other skip level type of opportunities in the company. So maybe they can sit in with our execs and work on a strategic project. We also have committees. That's one of the ways that I gained leadership through the company when we were very small and there was definitely not many tiers. And so we have a spirit committee, a DEI committee, a lot of other social and strategic types of committees where people can kind of flex that leadership muscle when we can't necessarily do some kind of official title or promotion.
Yeah, I love that. And I was going to say something that we found. You talk about the skip levels with executives in the team. We also offer a mentorship program in our company. So whether it's internally or externally within our team's networks, that's something that we really prioritize, especially for those top performers, to help them with their career growth.
And I think I will remind us all too that pay is typically not the real reason that someone leaves an organization. Research shows year after year that salary and compensation, even in the midst of inflation, it's not 1, 2, and sometimes even 3, on the list of what influences somebody to exit. So those examples that you were sharing, Ashley, or how to keep people engaged and committed and create those informal career growth opportunities really help to retain an employee because it gives them a greater sense of influence. It exposes them to other areas of the organization, and it allows many times for them to use skills and abilities that are either untapped in the current role or that others don't recognize that they have, right? And so it speaks more to the intrinsic need for growth, appreciation, recognition for a job well done, then money will many times. Like that increase in salary, it lasts for a hot minute, right? It's like, yeah, I have extra to put towards whatever, I have extra to put away, but it's really the ongoing sense of contribution and impact that keeps people committed and loyal and sticking around.
Yeah, that's so good. It's compensation is such an interesting one to me because for so long, I mean, in my book, and in my talk, I talked about the workforce's declining value on compensation. This is 5 years ago. And what's interesting is that today it is more valued than it was, because of the things you just talked about. But it's still not it doesn't solve the fundamentals that you were referring to. And these concepts of like, and maybe just to get really practical for the folks watching right now is like, do you have a good recognition program in place? And by program, I mean, are there rhythms to it? Like one of the mistakes I think HR teams make and companies make is they put in place they have a moment of energy and they do this one thing and then it goes away. And they put it in this and then it goes away. And it's like, no, do you have a way to kind of consistently recognize people and when people feel recognized and they feel valued, they have a sense of place, like they feel connected. And to leave that sense of place is a significant change in their life. You have to go into a new community. You have to go into this new environment and reestablish yourself. And and I wonder how many companies feel this false sense of like they're stuck. Like we can't do raises, we can't do promotions, but they're asking they're not doing these obvious basics that are right in front of them as well.
Yeah. That's when it becomes important to understand, and again, to include managers in doing that, understanding the ambitions, the things that energize employees, so that you can get creative in how you meet them where they are and satisfy their needs.
Yeah. Let's talk about recognition, just because I thought that question was really good, Amy. What ways do you incorporate recognition into your culture? I'll share a couple on our end. We do at the end of every week, we have this thing called a check-in where at the end of it, you kind of share what you did to your manager, what you did for the week. And then at the end, there's a spot to kind of recognize people and it goes into a Slack feed and everybody can kind of see different people that are highlighted. That's one. Another is in our kind of all team meeting at the end of after a review, we highlight the people who most impacted the top company objective. as a way to be really like to say, like when you call out the behavior that is moving the needle in your business, you help set the bar and show what great is. And then you're also recognizing the people who really made a big difference in the company as well. Any of you three have ideas on ways to do like recognition or just helping people feel valued in general as well?
Yeah, we try to build a really strong culture of recognition at GoCo. I'm pretty proud of where it is at the moment, and we encourage it both top down from managers and peers. So we use an app called Hey Taco. It's a plugin to Slack. We're a Slack organization, and we have different channels where people can give shout outs, and you literally give a taco by giving a taco emoji next to their name, and then employees can redeem those tacos for real money. I like to use mine on Uber Eats gift cards. You can use it for company swag. So that's the most consistent way that we do it. And then we also twice yearly do an award ceremony, and that's where managers will recognize employees similar to what you just talked about, Adam, the people who contributed to the organizational KPIs. But we also have a peer nominated category. We have 5 company values, so peers can nominate employees who exhibit each of our company values. And so that's a way that we've created something that's consistent. We're on, I think, the 2nd or 3rd year of doing it. So people know that it's coming and they're looking out for that and giving recognition throughout the year towards those awards as a goal.
Yeah, and to double down on that, that's what Bucket List, that's what we're all about. We are a recognition platform. So we are super users of our own product internally, which is awesome. So for those that may not know what a recognition platform is, it enables individuals in the company to recognize each other for the great work that they're doing, the impact they're making by posting a message, and you award points similar to Hey Taco. And the points are collected and you use them to redeem towards whatever it is that is meaningful to you, whether it's gift cards, swag, or my favorite experiences. And it really helps people choose how they're being rewarded. And then on top of that, we empower our leaders to create awards within the platform that are tied to specific company or department goals and objectives. One example I love to give is something we pride ourselves on internally is our top-notch customer service. So when someone in the customer success team receives an NPS, a net promoter score of 9 or 10 from a client, they get an award on our platform. And we all celebrate and, high fives all around. So just an example of how these recognition programs can really drive those things you're looking for, the KPIs and the business results you're looking for as well.
Yeah, go ahead, Chanel.
Well, I was just going to say, Katie, don't hold it against me. I'm going to talk about some of the non-vendor provided approaches to rewards and recognition.
Please.
I think it comes down to the power in the pause, right? Encouraging an organization to pause long enough to not just acknowledge the win, but to really be detailed in recognizing all of the pieces and people who had to come together in order for that win to happen. So making sure that recognition and celebrating big and small wins are a part of every meeting agenda, every all hands, every one-on-one where you can, and just keeping that for front and foremost for employees. It drives home the message that this is why I do what I do, right? And creating that by demonstrating it is one of the best ways that managers can support their direct reports in doing it for each other. There's many pieces of research that indicates that peer recognition has greater impact than top-down recognition coming from members of leadership. But more often than not, people do not do what's not modeled because they don't have anything to mirror it after. So over here at 15Five, we are great at giving high fives, but not just hashtag you did well, but hashtag you did well at when you were a part of. So pausing long enough to give some substance to that thank you for a job well done.
Yeah, there's another, just to your point of like just good best practices that don't require anything other than just a good best practice. One thing that I've observed is like a lot of times a manager shows up on Monday, they get the Sunday scaries, they show up on Monday, they have their team meeting, and they decide to transfer all of the stress that's inside to their team. And it kind of immediately sets the tone for what that week is going to be like for that team. Chaotic, and somehow the strategy changed again, and stuff's just kind of like, and maybe the team feels overly criticized. I'm sure I could dig this up if somebody messages me, but I created, if you think about how HR can support managers, a simple ask these 3 questions to yourself before your team meeting on Monday. And so first is like a quick check-in on how the weekend was, humanize your team. Remind everybody that there's a story beyond work, like there's something else happening in these people's lives. They're taking board games too seriously or whatever. And the other is then we always want to highlight one person, like take a moment to go, hey, this person did something exceptional last week. And what you do then is you just start to like kind of show the team what great looks like. Everybody wants to be great. They just don't know how to get there. And sometimes when you give those examples, well, I think we got pretty specific. Did anybody else have one more before we move on? Anything else we want to add?
I did see 2 comments that are a little similar about how do you deal with recognition if a KPI is, top sales and you have a continual sales performer. How are you recognizing the other people, or how do you prevent something like Hey Taco from becoming a favoritism contest? And I think that's where the HR and manager partnership can really shine, because our people ops team does keep an eye on things like that for the app, where you can see those metrics, and will ping us and say, hey, your team's been really quiet with the recognition lately, or, is there an issue with a team member because they haven't been getting recognition? Maybe that's an indicator of a performance issue. And so having that conversation and surfacing that is really important. We've seen that with some of our teams. They're just not as public with posting. So we've created private channels where they can still give those recognition rewards, and just, give them a gentle nudge and remind them that is a platform for recognition. And then with the KPIs, we run into that as I run a marketing team. So we can definitely see that some people just have streaks where they're hitting the KPIs. And so I think that's where the managers can really give some insight into maybe not the most obvious top level KPIs, but other KPIs where people have really shown. And then you can take a moment to pause and call those things out rather than repeating the same KPI over and over, because that doesn't always paint the full picture anyway.
It's a good transition too, into just getting practical on the best way for HR to support managers. When we talk about how these 2 groups are working together, what are some of the ways that the HR can support managers right now?
I always think about the need to meet them where they are. And in order to do that, you have to understand where they are, right? So just as our people managers, it is important for them to build relationships of trust. It's also important for HR to build those relationships of trust with their business partners and with people managers, and not to be afraid to solicit feedback from them. How can we as HR better support you? Where do you need greater levels of support, of training, of development? And let's not assume that they understand the fullness of their responsibilities as managers. I mean, in most organizations, at least it's been my experience, that we promote managers because they were very good independent individual contributors. But I won't use that word. We don't always give attention to filling in the gap and getting them to that place where they are transitioning mentally from being an individual contributor to being someone who is leading a team of individual contributors, and letting them know that it's okay that they're not clones of you. Right. And so helping them to become comfortable with having a growth mindset, with being open to receiving constructive criticism as well as delivering constructive criticism. Those are skill sets and muscles that have to be developed. And first, we need to create the awareness that they're necessary, right, to be successful as a people manager. So summarize all of that to say, know where they are and meet them where they're at.
Yeah, I love that, meeting them where they're at. It really, the relationship between HR and managers it should be a partnership. Ultimately, we both have that common goal of setting employees up and leaders up for success and providing a great experience along the way. So meeting regularly is so important, making sure they feel supported. They're not in this leadership journey, especially for the new leaders. They're not in it alone. They have the support of the HR team with, like you were talking about, training. And like I said, not meeting just when there's an issue, meeting on a regular basis, make it a recurring meeting for all the other, similar to all the other important meetings that you have. And then you can collaborate on strategies and ideas for developing the leaders themselves as well as their team members.
I was nodding emphatically the whole time because that was my journey to manager. I went from top performing individual contributor to managing a team of 8 in less than a year and a half. So I had to learn everything. And what you just said, just because I was good at executing the tasks on my own didn't mean I was good at teaching them. So I think from the manager perspective, providing that almost validation along the way of what it feels like to be a manager, how tough that transition can be is really helpful. And once transitioned, now I've been doing it for quite a while. Luckily for me and my team, it worked out well this time. But I think HR does a really good job of creating accountability for managers at our organization. And when I'm onboarding a new employee, HR is very clear with me about what they expect me to do for that employee in those early days of their tenure at our company and what types of check-ins to do. And like you said, it's not just when there's an issue, it's ongoing so that we have that relationship built from the start. And that's been extremely valuable for supporting me while I manage everything and manage becoming a manager.
Yeah, I think that's so good. I think it really goes right to what Chanel was saying, like just meet you where you are. Like I think about this story that happened to me when I was an early manager, and I would be hiring people and I was always like, just one more candidate, just one more interview. I was like nine interview guy.
Oh,
And I had an incredible HR leader, Gabby, who was who we ended up working together for a long time, but she taught me how to actually interview people, like in a consistent and steady way, to create a high bar where you need less interviews. Well, so then this fundamental concept came to me is like when HR comes to you and saves you time and yet your results increase. Well, now all of a sudden I'm interested, right? But I think to do that HR being good at change management and like just naming with a little bit of boldness what's broken. Hey, we've tried this in the past. Here are the situations that managers have run into. Here's kind of why we think this new way is good. That if you make their lives easier and you improve the quality of their output and you get them, they also don't like living in the reactive world. You get them out of the reactive world. Now all of a sudden you get this kind of flywheel going where everybody's on board. And we don't talk enough about how management is a learned skill. It's just kind of this like, Ashley becomes a manager and then boom, has 8 people, and she didn't go to, I don't know if you went to school for management. I went for sociology. I wasn't prepared for that. So yep. What was that like for you to go from like, I just did the job to now I'm leading people?
It was tough, and I did not go to school for management. I was similar, cultural anthropology. So
cultural anthropology, perfect for management.
Yeah, right. I actually do think it can be valuable because I did try to navigate, what I would ask them, what communication style do you need from me? But I would feel like I don't know what to give them. What if what they're telling me isn't what the proper approach is? And I just second guessed myself the whole time. And when I would run into performance issues with my employees, I would put it back on myself because I was new. So I couldn't adequately suss out whether it was a performance issue or something with my management style. And so I think issues dragged on for a lot longer than they needed to. So that was very difficult. I think the other part of the transition is as an individual contributor, you're producing such a high volume of work for the business that I think it's a big shock to not just yourself and your team, but the whole business when it's like that needs to be cut off because I need to spend time managing. So I think having support with adjusting expectations for everybody else around me was really valuable too when HR did step in and kind of do some level setting about what that transition should look like from all aspects.
Yeah. I think HR are this is Chanel's opinion, the OGs of OD. I think we are the OGs of organizational development. We oftentimes have the firsthand observation, firsthand knowledge, and have felt the firsthand impact of what is not ideal within an organization, right? And so being able to frame those things up in a way that's digestible to leadership and lead with why there should be a sense of urgency behind improving certain areas is where I think we have some of the greatest impact and where we contribute some of the greatest value, right? And in this world of OD becoming a formal role and profession, I think it would benefit us to be mindful that the two are so deeply connected, and one doesn't, OD practitioners, they do not really improve the organization without the intimate insights that HR can provide and them being a partner to that. So I say all of that to say HR, they are the OGs of OD, right? You need them to properly identify what is hindering your business and the areas of success because they have eyes on all of it.
Katie, any thoughts?
No, I mean, hard to follow Chanel. That was perfect. I love everything she said. And yeah, I just second what she said, and just having a seat at the table for folks in HR to be able to communicate what they're seeing and what they're hearing is so important to help kind of shape the strategy of, the organizational design and strategy.
Yeah. I think it's so good. It's like, I think in a best in class world, right? You have an infrastructure in place that trains new managers. Like you have a formal structure in place. I think that is like the gold standard. It is attainable, and there's tons of resources like 15.5 that make that very accessible. But I also think that if you don't have access to that, that it is not an excuse to not do something. Like in my early startup, when I started leading other managers, I did a mastermind group. It's free. It was once a month. It was 60 minutes. And I just brought them, all the managers in the company together, put one person on the hot seat, let them work through a problem they were working on. I also created a one-page document that just said, this is what it means to be a manager. And the main thing to teach a manager is that what it doesn't mean is that you don't do your employees' jobs. And that is a freaking hard skill to learn. Like it is, because it's just like you got to that job because you were good at it. And it's really easy just to start doing 3-4 people's jobs. But then all of a sudden you end up in an actually situation where there's 8 employees, and it's like, it's just not as, it's just not a viable, scalable thing. Okay. If you haven't put your major, or come on, put your major in the chat here, folks. Katie and Ashley, what did you go to college for? That's not, I know I didn't. We're just having fun here. Accounting, Kelly, nice job.
I have a Bachelor of Commerce degree, but there's definitely no leadership. There was no leadership courses there.
Yeah, I'm basic business administration for my bachelor's degree. My master's degree is in organizational development and leadership.
Okay, nice. I'm sociology and organizational communication is my master's. Fun. A lot of social science kind of mixed into this too. And look at all these: faith, animal science. Really wish you were on the panel right now. We would just spend a little bit of time diving into the animal science industry. And I wonder if that's what you still, maybe you still do that, I guess. And you just also have a affinity for HR-based topics. Who knows? Okay, let's do, if you have a question from the audience, go ahead and put it in the Q&A. I'll see if I can get to it. We got like 5 minutes, so I will try to get to those. I just saw one. Speech communication, Ashley Clark. That's okay, nice. I see you. All right. Any last final like piece of advice when it comes to like retaining top performers that you can think of?
My 2 pieces really quickly. Don't tolerate unsatisfactory performers, because that's the quickest way to frustrate a top performer, to make them feel like they're underappreciated and undervalued, and they'll start looking elsewhere. And then the other thing is empowering managers to know their employees, right? We are in a time where we need to give managers permission to be personal, not personal where they're pulling up to the kitchen table, but no longer does managing from a place of just giving directives work. It's not effective anymore. They're going to have to demonstrate some level of vulnerability in their interactions with their employees to help foster those relationships of trust that then lead to the loyalty of top performers.
I love that. Yeah. And knowing that one size does not fit all flows into that too, right? You need to find out what matters to each individual, whether it's stretch projects, mentorship opportunities, flexibility, recognition. Like, encourage your leaders to have those future focused development conversations with your top performers, and then asking important questions to them, like, how do you want to grow? What do you find most valuable in terms of rewards? How do you like to be recognized? Just making sure that you understand the individual needs of folks is so important.
And I think I've probably said this in a few different ways, but don't assume your managers know what they're doing when it comes to managing people. I will happily use myself as an example because I went through that transition, but any resources and trainings that you can provide to your managers, I think, are super beneficial. And from what I've seen working with other new managers, most people really do want to be a good manager and help retain those employees. So any of that partnership can take a decent manager to a great manager.
Awesome. I want to ask this one question. Elizabeth, I promise this question is one of the ones I get the very most. So I'm confident Chanel gets it too in her world. So, but any of you are welcome to answer this. How do you work with executive leaders who are not aligned and manage based on fear, and their way is the only way? Super easy, Elizabeth. This is very easy to solve. Ron, yeah, Crystal. Any thoughts? I mean, I could share some things, but
I'm a rather direct kind of communicator, and in some kind of way, I think I've developed this what started out as a natural talent to influence through that directness, right? And so when I meet with executive leadership teams, I present to them the worst case scenario if we don't get alignment. I drive home the message that business doesn't do business without its people, and that the experience that people are having, it impacts the brand of the company, the customer brand, as well as the employer brand. And I attempt to quantify, turn the loss into numbers that will make them pause and say, okay, we need to do something about this, right? And so turnover is costly. It is costly in dollars and cents, as it is also costly in the loss of knowledge and productivity. And so I speak their language, right? They don't typically want to hear the fluffy side of what they perceive HR to be. So I speak the way that they speak.
You just I wrote down an answer, and it was like amazing how similar like what you said was. I wrote down this: get some guts, believe in yourself, say what's true, use data, try it 3 times, and then quit. Yeah. Because your life, like, you are a valuable person. So go, like, life is too short. Like, you put yourself out there, represent what's right in the world, and then, it is what it is. Sometimes those are just not solvable problems. And I love to pretend like we always convince people to change and all that. You try. I think you do your best. Like you said it perfectly. You all, this was so good. I'm really appreciative to all that. We're going to put a poll up. I want to talk, just give you a little window here for a quick micro pitch, but can you talk just a little bit about your own company and how it helps improve retention and engagement? And then folks, what we'll do who are here, we'll launch a poll. And if you're interested in learning about either of these 3 companies, learning more, having a demo, just select that in the poll. And then after this, I'll also share the SHRM codes as well right after that. So Katie, you want to kick us off?
Sure, absolutely. So circle back to recognition as something we know really helps engage and retain employees. Studies show 79% of people quit their job because of lack of appreciation, and organizations that incorporate regular recognition have 31% lower turnover. So through our bucket list platform, we help companies make sure that recognition is an integral part of their company culture. And we've seen teams break down silos with peer-to-peer recognition, celebrate milestones together, give out fun awards, and receive personalized awards or rewards that are meaningful to the individuals. So if you're curious and want to find out more, we're happy to chat.
Awesome. Ashley.
Yeah, GoCo's an all-in-one HRIS for small to medium-sized businesses. So you can manage your employees' whole life cycle from onboarding to payroll, ben admin, and more. We integrate with 15.5 and a bunch of other great platforms. It's also self-service, easy to use. Employees love it. You can really engage your employees with different communication methods, processes, things like that, all inside of GoCo.
Okay, Chanel.
Wow, what does 15.5 not do, right? We provide a system of action that helps to support the performance of teams, the effectiveness of managers, and demonstrate the value that an HR team brings to its organization. We also provide manager training for your new and emerging managers, as well as your long-term managers who may be struggling in areas, and advisory services directly to HR teams, helping them to develop their HR strategies to address areas of retention, as well as performance and engagement.
Awesome. There's the poll, folks. And we will, let's see here, see if I can answer any of these before we go. Everyone, let's do this actually instead of that. I would love if you would, because I know that you all who are attending have busy stuff happening in your own world too, and you're about to jump into it. So before you jump out of this moment, just let's pause for a quick second. Take a big deep breath, put in the chat one. It could just be a spark, an idea that you're going to apply, or a takeaway, like one thing that's going to stick with you. Let's just fill the chat up with different ideas. And if you see another one that is inspiring to you, just grab it, copy and paste it, and save it for later too. Awesome. So mentorship program, identifying emerging managers, get some guts, believe in yourself, say truth 3 times, then quit. Engagement isn't one size fits all. Katie, nice. The power of the pause. The OG of OD, I think, might be the title that we accidentally stumbled into, all of us. Peer recognition programs.
I think there's a swag idea you can sell, Chanel.
Yeah, I'm capturing it. I have all kinds of ideas running through my head right now.
It's shirt time. Meet regularly and prioritize. Be like Chanel when I grow up. I relate to everything she said. Pretty much every time I've ever done an event with you, that's how I feel everything you say. Be kind and empathetic while leading others to success. These are really good, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time. Everyone, you'll see the SHRM codes over there in the chat and the HRCI codes. We deeply appreciate the work that you do. We know that it really matters and that it's important. And so keep doing great work. Thank you for taking time. Don't hesitate to reach out to any of us if you have questions. Thanks so much. Have a great day.